Hello there, my fellow notebook aficionados. This is the updated second generation of Microsoft's Surface Laptop Studio. And as the name implies, the silver-colored beauty is primarily aimed at creators. And while the first generation of the 14-incher struggled a little with lackluster performance, the folks from Redmond tried to rectify that situation in 2023. But pure speed aside, the Laptop Studio is still one of the most unique pieces of tech, primarily because of its main party trick, how it quickly transforms from a notebook to a tablet or something in between. But exactly this shape-shifting nature, together with the very high price tag and a few questionable design decisions, give us a hard time deciphering who this stellar-looking piece of notebook hardware was designed for. But as always, let's start at the beginning. Our sample of the Studio came equipped with Intel's i7-13700H, an Nvidia RTX 4060 running at up to 80 watts, a very generous 64 GB of DDR5 5200 RAM and a 1TB SSD. In the display department, we get a 120Hz 14-inch touchscreen running at a rarely seen 2400 by 1600. By the way, my colleagues on the website also tested the updated smaller product of the Laptop Studio, the Surface Laptop Go 3. While I will include our benchmark results in the performance comparisons, I will focus on the 14-incher in this review. So if you want to read up on this super portable puppy, check out our written article on the website. I will link it in the description below. Circling back to the Studio, even without taking the folding mechanism of the display into account, the Studio is a very special looking notebook. The sort of raised base unit almost made it look like it's floating on your desk, also helping it to look much sleeker than it really is. Material quality and chassis rigidity are excellent, with no flex anywhere. We just wish the edges of the keyboard deck would have been a bit more rounded. The folding mechanism works quite well once you get used to the way it works, and just in the in-between stages, the secondary hinge does make it feel a little wobbly. But once in place, and there are actually quite a few ways to rest the display, everything is satisfyingly locked in place with magnets, and the Surface gives you plenty of options to interact with your content. In addition to the traditional laptop setup, you can move the lower edge of the screen below the keyboard, for when you just can't be bothered to look at the keyboard while sketching, watching Netflix or playing video games. From there you can either completely flip the screen around to show your on-screen content to the person in front of you sipping their coffee at the local Starbucks if you're so inclined, or fold it down completely to turn the Surface into a tablet, or rather into a flat canvas for your creative endeavors. All of this is very neat, and the Laptop Studio is definitely a conversation starter. But I am still struggling to decide for myself if I would use the different modes all that much. This, for example, would be a great way to edit images with the Surface Stylus. It makes the display very stable while working on it directly in Photoshop, but it also keeps you from using any shortcuts, so you would actually have to use an external keyboard, which then again kind of defeats the mobile purpose. But I can totally see this to be very handy for illustrators or designers who can get by with on-screen controls or using the Surface docked as a pen tablet while connected to an external screen. Another gripe we have with the Surface, which unfortunately carries over to the whole of Microsoft's hardware lineup, is the lack of maintenance or repair options. There are no visible screws anywhere on the Studio, which makes for a very clean appearance, but completely denies the user any form of serviceability. In the I/O department, Microsoft updated this year's Studio with an additional USB-A 3.2 Gen 1 alongside the two USB-C Thunderbolt 4 ports on the left and added a micro SD card reader on the right, where you can also find the Surface Connect port for charging and the headphone jack. It's not a bad selection, but I would have loved seeing an HDMI and maybe even a full-size SD card reader. That said, the smaller variant provides excellent transfer rates. Wireless transfers are pretty solid as well, and while the Surface Pro models come with pretty good cameras, this one is a bit on the softer side, even though it comes with handy features like auto framing, just in case you move a lot in your Zoom calls. In the input department, we have absolutely nothing to complain about. The keyboard offers a very satisfying typing experience with decent travel and great tactility. The haptic touchpad worked like a breeze in our testing as well, and the slim pen also did its job. It can also offer haptic feedback depending on how hard you press down on the screen, at least in some of Microsoft's native apps. In Photoshop, for example, it seems like this feature does not work. Speaking of using this for photo editing, the pen itself is very responsive, making it well suited for touch-ups or even longer edits, and even the flattened shape was quite alright for me after getting used to it. It can also be attached magnetically to the front of the surface, and the magnets are quite strong, so you shouldn't be worried too much about losing the pen when being out and about. On the display side of things, pretty much everything about the panel is very solid, with high brightness results even with a little boost in HDR, despite this being a standard IPS panel and above average contrast. I would personally prefer a wider color gamut, especially given the creator-focused nature of the surface, and the response times are pretty slow as well. We have also been able to detect PWM, albeit with a pretty high frequency of 17,600 Hz, so even sensitive users should not have a problem in this regard. Alright folks, let's get into performance. The i7-13700H is an old acquaintance by now, and the hybrid chip is fueled by up to 80 watts during peak load and levels off at around 52 watts. In our performance rating, most competing notebooks are faster, if not by a lot. The same story continues in our system performance rating, placing most similarly equipped laptops pretty close to each other. Microsoft thankfully put a pretty fast drive in the Surface that can keep up its excellent transfer rates even over the course of our torture tests. And by the way, if you are interested in our individual results for all the benchmarks we have tested, please head on over to our written review on the website. By far the biggest jump in pure computing grunt is made possible by going from an RTX 3050 Ti to the RTX 4060. It's definitely not the fastest variant of Nvidia's mid-ranger, but still it turns the Studio in a much more versatile notebook, be it for GPU accelerated creative apps or for some after-work virtual entertainment. In our 3D Mark rating, the unique laptop-tablet hybrid is well placed, and in Blender, the Studio even gets pretty close to the RTX 4070 powered ZenBook Pro 14X we tested a while ago. And even in the Puget Systems Photoshop benchmarks, our measured scores are excellent, even compared to much faster systems on paper. And before we get into some games, let's hear a quick word from our sponsor. NVIDIA Studio program is here to help accelerate all of your content creation needs, with dedicated drivers being vigorously tested for compatibility and reliability in almost all applications being used in various fields throughout the professional industry, and of course their powerful silicon for a healthy dose of GPU acceleration. The new mobile RTX 4000 cards come with exclusive hardware features that you will not find anywhere else on the market, and notebooks with Team Green's dedicated GPUs come in all shapes and sizes. Are you looking for something super portable to enter the world of content creation? Or maybe you're a student and need something affordable or something you can lug around campus without breaking a sweat? RTX 4050 or 4060 equipped notebooks can easily handle your first steps in photo editing or graphics design, and can even get you started in CGI or video editing. With dedicated tensor cores for AI accelerated features in Adobe's Creative Suite, for example, or hardware encoders for your high-res video footage, even the entry-level chips will give you a solid performance boost. Craving something faster? Well, with the efficiency gains in the latest GPU generation, you can even find 4070s in super sleek chassis for some pretty insane do-it-all performance machines. Or dial it up to 11 with even 4090s being fit into 14-inch notebooks. Or are you the on-the-go pro looking for the ultimate mobile workstation? Well, both the RTX 4080 and especially the 4090 will provide desktop level performance for almost anything you can think of, for filmmakers, video editors or CGI artists. If you want to learn more about NVIDIA Studio program and for a complete list of supported applications, please follow the links in the description below. And if you want to get shopping right away, our German retail partner Alternate got you covered, and you can find a list of available Studio notebooks down there as well. And now let's get back to our review. The Surface might not be your usual gaming notebook, but given its core components, you can still use it for the occasional game after a long day at work to unwind. While these slow response times will not make it ideal for faster shooters, story games will give you a good time. It's again not the fastest notebook in our 1080p rating, but once more this one is not primarily made for heavy games. And we will talk more about why in a little bit. Until then, please enjoy our benchmarks, and in addition I also tested a few select games in the display's native resolution to see what the Surface can deliver. So up until now, the Surface did quite well in our testing, but we still have to talk about fan noise and temperatures. Especially the latter will be a problem if you really push the 14-incher. Because of the unique cooling solution with the two fans towards the front of the chassis, you will not only get pretty sweaty hands very quickly, but the stream of hot air is also directly aimed at your hands, should you use an external mouse. So if you want to use the Studio to play, we recommend sticking to a controller, since it can get quite uncomfortable in the palm rest area. Fan noise is also very present given the performance results, but as always, we took some noise samples for you to get an idea for yourself. For more results and insight into the temperature and stress test behavior of the Surface, please head over to our written review. We have a lot more data about this one on our website.
Tell me, where did you learn to be so negative? You're such a drag. What's your feeling? Never having no real life. I don't know how you deal.
Regarding mobility and working on the road, battery life is very decent, considering a pretty small battery for this class of device. 8 hours and 20 minutes in our Wi-Fi test with the screen set to 150 nits and 120 Hz, and 9.5 hours at 60 Hz are very good results. Alright folks, it is time to wrap it up. The Surface Laptop Studio gets updated in 2023 in all the right places. And in a vacuum, it is a solid performer with some unique and potentially useful additional features for the creators amongst you. But it is also very expensive, and most premium 14-inch competitors will give you a better performance experience. It also seems like the cooling solution has a hard time handling the updated internals, and especially the temperature situation in the palm rest area is a bit of a bummer. Do not get me wrong, this is an awesome piece of tech, but you would really have to want the flexibility of the unique hinge design to justify its price tag. But please folks, let me know what you think in the comments below. This shall be it for today. Please leave your like and sub if you enjoyed our review. Thanks a ton for watching. My name is Alex, you have been fantastic, and I cannot wait to see you all in the next one. Take care.